It has been 3 years since I left Nairobi. Slightly over. Maybe a month or two more than 3 years. So, I thought I'd tell you the story of how I left and how I'm doing now. This is Sheila Sophia, the podcast. You are listening to me, Memsahiba Mahonet. So 3 years ago, I packed up my house and I left Nairobi. There were many reasons why I left, chief amongst them being that I was very tired. And burnout is a really difficult thing to describe when you're outside of it. I didn't like who I was in that kind of tired is the best explanation I can offer. I was missing social cues, and I'm observant and intuitive. I'm the friend that sees you even when you don't want to be seen and in ways you didn't anticipate to be seen. And I'm also the friend that makes it okay for you to exist in ways you probably weren't going to admit to yourself. I've always been that kind of friend. I've always been the kind of person that can see things very deeply and that can see people far beyond what they're letting on. Now, where I was missing the social cues in my exhaustion is that in situations that I would normally be okay with just being quiet about it, I was now seeing people and either talking about it or losing the correct social cues. Now, yes, I've struggled with social cues before. On this other side of burnout, I can say that for certain, the times I've struggled with social cues the most have been the times I've been most tired. Now that I can see it. But at the time, I didn't like how I don't know. I don't have a word for it. Social cues is the closest I'm coming to it, but it's also not quite that. But I didn't like how I was handling life at the time. And I knew I was tired. My back was aching. I, of course, needed that sleep. It was just that sleep that, everybody talks about when they're burnt out. I feel like I want to sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep. I knew too that I was becoming resentful of the life I was living. There was nothing wrong with it. I was just resentful of it. Actually, I take that back. There are plenty of things wrong with it simply because it just wasn't my life. So I was resentful of it. And now on this side, I can say I was resentful because it just wasn't my own. And so I burnt out. And I moved. I moved to a little beachfront cottage, 2-bed, 2-bath, in a little village in the north of Tanzania. And I chose that. I had options, but I chose that specific option because then I wasn't easily reachable on phone, for example. You couldn't just call me. I knew I could support myself somehow because I had a little bit of money saved up. I had a little this, that, and the other put together. So I was trying my best to figure my life out. But by year 2, I didn't have a plan on what my life would be like next. And I also was still too tired to work. And the thing with burnout recovery, when you're saying these things to clients, it's very easy to say how, guilt is a part of it. You feel intelligent saying that to clients, you feel like you really understand the stuff. Because you're offering them a line, you're offering them a rope when they're at the end of theirs. And you're letting them know that the guilt is normal, the shame is normal. When you're experiencing said guilt and shame, it doesn't immediately occur to you that what you're feeling is normal and a part of it. At least it didn't occur to me. I just remember constantly asking myself, but why are you so tired? It's not like you're working. Or why are you so tired? It's not like what you do is that hard. Why are you so tired? It's not like... And then I've grown up believing I was lazy. When I look back at my life and see the track record, I have in fact never been lazy. But I've grown up believing I was lazy. Why have I grown up believing I was lazy? Because in my school years, I would sleep. Let me tell you, to this day, if I am awake before 8 a.m., by 10 a.m. I'll need a nap. I will need a nap. I will absolutely need a nap. I have struggled with school, and it's only after I sat down and actually took a rest that I processed how, yes, I was exhausted because I had been working for a decade, but also, yes, I was exhausted because I had been in high performance environments my entire life. School is a high masking, high performance environment. There isn't a cute way to put that. And I always wonder about people who try and sanitize it, because school is very difficult, especially for neurodivergent kids. Well, I found it particularly difficult. You had to sit still, and then you have to be around people. I don't like people. Not even in the we're all quiet together. No. Can I be by myself? I don't want to have to be around people. Not only was I in school for years on end, I also come from a very social family. So most of my life, I never really had the experience of being alone long enough without guilt to rest, recuperate, rejuvenate, and all of that, because no one else in my family seems to have those needs. So it just never became a thing. And of course, in school, if you're the kid who's struggling, why are you struggling? And I was a bright kid, so if you're struggling, then there is the shame and the guilt of struggling, because why are you struggling? You're a bright kid, you're naturally an A student, you don't struggle so much with the concepts. And that is true. To this day, I don't struggle much with the concepts. But in high school especially, first of all, I was sick throughout high school, and now I can see that yes, I had actual physical things going on. And also, yes, being in closed quarters at all times with 800 other girls was killing me. If I'd had one more year of high school, I would have died. And then Kikuyu culture is not rest or sleep positive, especially for women. I remember one time I was getting an invasive procedure done, and they were going to put a tube into my throat in order to put in a camera so that I can what was it? They wanted to see something in my stomach. And when I couldn't take in the tube, the attending doctor, in the presence of my parents, asked, "Didn't your mother teach you how to be a woman? That as a woman you have to, lazima uvumilie vitu." And I could see my mother didn't quite have a response for that. She didn't say anything though, but I could see she didn't quite have a response for that. And I could see that part of the reason she didn't have a response for that was, this is not the child you tell to vumilia, because she just wouldn't do it. Which is funny, because my mother is also not the kind of person that can vumilia things to begin with. So, yes, I could see she had the bold of you to assume that you can teach this one to withstand hardship with grace. And I and I could also see that my father, who was also in the room, was wondering, withstand what? Because his wife has never been a withstander of anything either. So anyway, Kikuyu culture is not sleep positive. It is not rest positive. I've had men who are hitting on me tell me, yeah, we'll rest when we die, in response to me saying I'm tired. And of course I have blocked every single one the second they said that. Somehow I've always known that that specific thing is a problem to say. But if you grow up Kikuyu, and if you grew up in Kenya, and now let me just get woo. Yes, Kenya is a Sagittarius sun, so there's a lot of wanting personal freedom, but your most important astrological sign is your moon sign, and Kenya is a Virgo moon. Kenya is a Virgo moon. Kenya will work and work and work itself to the bone, and Virgos withstand anything. The program is the program, and it doesn't change, and a Virgo is not going to walk away from anything, no matter what it does to them. And Kenya deals that way with her problems and with her politicians. And for example, there's been a school fire recently at Utumishi Girls, and there are people who are asking, why would you send your children back to that school after there's been a fire? It's very traumatizing for the girls. But the parents are going to send those kids back. And the portal okay, the national portal that allows you to transfer a student from one school to the next or whatnot is going to be locked, which it actually is from what I understand on Twitter. Not that Twitter is credible information, just saying. But what I understand from the conversation going on Twitter is that the portal has been locked so that children from that particular school cannot actually be transferred. That's Virgo moon behavior. It's stick with your problems, die with them, whether they kill you or not, it doesn't matter. The program is a program, and it doesn't matter whether that program is going to end you mentally and psychologically or not. The program is a program. And so each generation of Kenyan students is gaslit by the previous ones. There's been school strikes in Kenya since the year 1907. So we've technically had school strikes for 119 years now, every 21 days on average. They're not new, but every time they happen, the older generations talk about how the younger ones need to be beaten up more if they're not being beaten, or they need to be this, that, and the other. It's always considered a problem of the youth. But 120 years means that even you, who is in your 40s and 50s, who now thinks children are becoming errant, had a school strike happening in your era every 21 days. And there's been fires over and over and over, you know, all kinds of fires and all kinds of gruesome strikes. I remember one particular one in the 90s where the principal came out and he said, oh, the boys didn't have a problem, they just wanted to rape a little. If those kids were teenagers in their 90s, they're in their 40s now, late 40s. It's not the children of today. Anyway, or early 50s, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, this was about burnout. Kenya is the kind of country, as a Virgo moon, it's the kind of country that is critical and is conservative and is hardworking and expects everybody else to withstand the hardworkingness and the deplorable conditions of work, and to never think you're above the work, or, you know, who do you think you are? Why do you think you're special? Why do you want better? Type of thing. So in Kenya, I remember hearing about a sleep positive household on TikTok and wondering what the fuck that was, because in the Kenya I grew up in, sleep positive, what are you saying? Sleep positive, that your parents find you sleeping and they're okay with it. My parents would never, to this day, they will visit me in my house and still have something to say about how long I sleep if by 7 a.m. I've not shown signs of stirring. I'm in my house. I'm an adult. They visited me. They visited me because I'm the one with a beach house. And still, it's an interesting, you know, Kenya is an interesting place where work ethic is concerned. And I tell people, you see the way we always say Beyonce will never leave Jay-Z? Yeah. She'll come and she'll shout at him in front of us and say the way, you're going to lose your wife. That man will never lose his wife. He will not. Oh, she's a Virgo. She's a Virgo. She's going nowhere. I'm okay with being proven wrong, you know, but I'm also praying I'm not proven wrong, because that's also a broken family. They have children and all of that. So I understand some of it, even when I don't always agree with it, because I look at it and I think, if you have to shout at a man in public and maybe make some money, well, congratulations for making money off of him cheating on you through your album and tours and whatnot, but you still had to do so much work to get that money anyway. and you got cheated on anyway. You had to do all that rehearsal and touring and girl, what? But that's Virgo. That's Virgo energy. I'm not leaving. I will shout at you. I'll scream at you. I'll express my anger. And then we're going to get back into it and keep doing things. And Virgos also think the more they criticize you, the better they're making things. I don't know if that's true of Beyonce. I don't know her personally, but that's true of Kenya. You know, Kenyans tend to think the more they tell you what's wrong, they're helping you. Why can't you see it? So, long story short, I felt guilty and ashamed that I wanted to sleep so much and that I was exhausted. And it's only after I moved to Tanzania, which is a very rest positive household. Tanzania as a country is very rest positive. Restaurants will close for 2 days. They might be open over the weekend, but they are definitely going to close for 2 days in the week to rest. Supermarkets have, days in the week they don't open because they're resting. And a lot of times those days are Monday. You will not find many places, even just ordinary shops, open after 6 p.m. Lunchtimes are taken seriously and they are not short. People will close, especially in predominantly Muslim areas. People will close for Salah at midday, around 1 o'clock, and the next time you're going to see them is at 2:33. Many people will close at 12 and they'll open at 3 o'clock. There's rest in between the day from work. It's a very rest positive country, and I needed that. I needed to see people who are working and who are structured and also very structured towards rest, because that's not something I had growing up. We had teachers who would teach and eat into our lunchtimes, for example, and those lunchtimes were 40 minutes, 1 hour. We had a principal in high school who told us we were resting too much because we had like Saturday afternoons and Sundays free, where you could just sit and let the week off you. And she came guns blazing and introduced prep times even on Sunday nights, if I remember correctly. Anyway, there was a lot that you needed to. There was a lot that you needed, a lot more that was introduced in terms of what you needed to do in order to produce the A's. And when I sat with myself, I realized all of these things were cumulative. I had been in a competitive education system my entire life. That's tiresome. First of all, people tire me out. And it wasn't until maybe 6 or 7 years ago that I was able to really sit and admit that people exhaust me. I don't like people because, like I said, even in previous episodes, our house was the stop point. It was the uncle and auntie in Nairobi that people come to. And I can see why my parents needed to be the uncle and auntie in Nairobi. But for me, who needed my peace and quiet, and who didn't even know that those were interruptions to my peace and quiet, it was a traumatic childhood. And I didn't realize it was traumatic in that way until well into adulthood. I just knew there was an anxiety, a very strong anxiety I felt around home. And when I picked up on what it was, I realized, it's because home is never quiet. It's never quite quiet. So, and it's never just you at home. There's always people. And even when it's just you, you can't really relax because you need to be doing things that are in preparation for the fact that there's about to be people. To this day, right now, there's somebody, I'm sure there's a relative or two at my parents' house right now. They've just always hosted somebody. So that happens. I start resting, and like I said, I start dealing with guilt, and I realize how guilty and how ashamed I feel about normal things, just existential things that are not particularly anything. And, it's, did you make the right grades in school? And you're a grown woman who's never even been asked for one school certificate, and you somehow made a career for all those years. And somehow you're still carrying that maybe I should have done better in school, and it's weighing on you. Or I had to deal with all these people. I had to this, I had to that, I had to the other. Am I making enough money? Am I living the life that I really want? Am I enough for myself? And expecting that if I say I'm enough for myself, then I'm becoming unambitious. So I have to keep the pressure up. Okay? There was also a lot of feeling that the pressure, the internal pressure, was necessary, because without it, who knows if I was going to still be motivated and still want to get up and do things. And then when I lost the pressure, and yes, I lost the motivation, I realized, did I ever really want to get up and do things? And so now I started questioning whether the motivation was ever really there, or I was just too guilty and too ashamed to admit that I wasn't feeling particularly motivated by a lot of these things. And I just kept it up because it's what you do in a country, especially where people are always doing things. And I remember when I moved back to Kenya a year ago, I was shocked. I was very shocked by how hurtless and how in a rush people were. So on one of those days, I needed to take my car to the garage. And, well, actually, I needed a mechanic to come and fix my car from where it was, because the alternator had done something, and so the car essentially couldn't just get up and run, which I was fine with. So I call the mechanic, I pay for him to come, he comes, he handles the alternator and everything, but before he gets to handling the alternator, he finds me sitting, waiting for him, but at the tail end of, small talk, just a little conversation I was having with somebody. And he cut me mid-sentence and pointed to his watchless wrist. It did not have a watch on it, but he tapped on his wrist to tell me, "Madam, time." And I lost it on him. I lost it. I told him off. I told his mama off. I told his clan off. And I still feel I didn't do enough. I should have told him off even more. I went on and on him. And the reason I was losing it on him was, yes, you've shown up. Yes, we had a deal. But I'm finishing up a conversation. I'm not going to keep you waiting longer than a minute or two, because I want to tie up the loose ends of a conversation, which is the polite thing to do. It's the right thing to do. and you're rushing me. And then also, in Tanzania, I had gotten used to being in the age bracket of shikamo, and I was enjoying it. Oh, please shikamo me. I love it. I was enjoying being in the age bracket of shikamo. So this non-shikamo having young man telling me at this my big age, and you've come for a service that I called you for and I'm paying you for, to be rude to me? Oh no. Oh no. That's not going to work. And I could see the confusion on his face, because he thought, like, see, I've come. What do you mean you're finishing up a conversation? And I was livid. I'm actually feeling myself getting livid as I'm talking right now, because let me finish what I'm saying. It's a minute. What's a minute going to do in your grand scheme of time? What is this time that you think you're saving by telling me to rush my 1 minute long statement? Go to hell. But that's Kenya. Oh, that is very Kenya. I remember the first time when I moved to Tanzania and I needed repair work done in my house. And don't get me wrong, Tanzania is, yes, very polite and very rest positive as a society, but it's also a very cruel society. There's cruelties that happen in Tanzania that I've never heard of anywhere else. Like, Tanzanians are cruel in ways that are chilling, bone chilling. But this is about rest. So I needed measurements taken by a plumber so that he can come back the next day and do what I needed. And so he comes in around 11 o'clock in the morning. And of course, I woke up early, had breakfast, went for my swim. What did I do? Right back to bed. So at 11 o'clock in the morning, I am taking all the naps. I'm taking a nap to repay all the naps I didn't take in high school. So he goes and then comes back at 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m. he tells me, hey, I passed by and I was told you're sleeping. And when a woman is sleeping, you don't wake her up. What are you saying? What are you saying, that when a woman is sleeping, you don't wake her up? Because the Kenya I grew up in, let me explain Kenya to you, because Kenya is a very strange place. When I moved back, about 8 or 9 months into it, no, around 6, it was around 6 months into it, I moved back to a rented house. And the landlord's sister or somebody, I guess, came over to the village I moved to around Christmas time or for the December holidays with her children. And so she passes by and she notices, oh, the house looks like it has a tenant now. And she knocks. Let me say she knocks. What really happened is that, first of all, she went through a hole in the fence to try and access the property instead of just going through the gate, and then went around the house to look around it, and then finally came and knocked on the door. It felt very bitch, what the fuck. So she knocks and I answer. And she introduces herself and tells me who she is and that, she's one of the members of the family I'm renting from. And I'm like, oh, okay, nice to meet you. And then she says, nitakuja nikutembeze. So, of course, I'm being polite, going like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that's a nice thing. Oh God, 2 days later she did show up, and she showed up at 10 o'clock in the morning. So she shows up at 10 o'clock in the morning. And the person she met the first day was the let me be nice, the PR version. So I guess I looked a little more animated to her. So the person she meets now this second time is me. And I'm not an animated person. Naturally. If I'm being animated, I'm entertaining. I really am just being an entertainer at that point. Naturally, I see things like this. There is almost a flatness to my reactions. It's natural, but also being a therapist will teach you how to poke her face the fuck up. So she meets the quiet one, and she goes like, "Oh, kwani bado umelala?" And I'm thinking, and who are you to ask whether I'm still asleep? And so I look at her and I watch her lose it and then self-correct and then lose it and then self-correct and then lose it and then self-correct. And then she asks it again, so she doubles down, because I guess sleeping is this terrible thing I'm doing. And so I tell her, no, I wasn't asleep. I'm in the middle of something. And so she goes, oh, okay, sorry to disturb you. And she never showed up to my house again, which was the desired outcome. A younger me would have been very stressed trying to indulge her. And, I would have kept up and possibly even joined a friendship that I was deeply uncomfortable with the pace and decibels of, because I was trying to be nice. And like I said, since there were a lot of relatives and people in our house, the expectation to be on and friendly and give people a chance, and I'm saying that in my mother's voice, was very strong, especially coming from my mother. My mother, to this day, if she has a complaint about me, you can be sure it's about how unenthusiastic I looked when she introduced me to somebody or whatever. I don't know. In her mind, I'm supposed to be happy and chirpy, and I'm not. And she's not. Well, she has the older Christian Kikuyu woman version of happy and chirpy, but she's not also like a happy and chirpy person. But I guess in her mind, it's not a trait she likes about herself, so she's hoping her daughter would pick it up. Sorry to her, I guess. But yeah, so a younger me would have tried, would have been like, oh, don't write them off. This me is like, if you're approaching me like that, you're a nonsense character. Just get away from me, and get away from me very quickly before I lose my cool. So, burnout. It took me a while, a long while, to realize that I could just be comfortable with things that I thought were too muted or not hype enough. It took me a while to realize that it was okay to have slow progress, for example. I'd always had very high expectations of myself. And there were many contributing factors, but I'd always had very high expectations of myself. And sitting with myself and resting allowed me to be like, hey, it's okay to just not be living in exactly the kind of house you thought you'd be living in by this time. It's okay to not be having the bank account you thought you'd be having. And it's okay to take a break, because it was always, okay, it can be okay for me to not have those things. But if I'm taking a rest, am I therefore just not working towards it and becoming lazier and just making it worse? So now there was also that additional layer of guilt. And I had to be like, hey, even if I never make another coin in my life, or never achieve whatever those goals are, I'm worthy. I love me. I care for me. I treat myself with respect. It was hard. I don't know that I always have it, but I'm a lot calmer about it now, I think. I'm a lot calmer about, did I make any money today or not? Because previous me would have told you something about how a day can be productive and not profitable. And now I don't know that I care whether a day is either productive or profitable. For me, a day is good if I was able to sleep while I listened to the ocean, or I was able to sit and stare at water for an hour or so, and maybe even swim. Then it's a good day. It's a good day. I swam, I listened to the water, I stared at it. Then the day is good. I listened to the birds. I smelled some flowers maybe on my walk, or noticed them. I talked to trees. I said, "Hi, tree." And then I paused, and the tree said something. I heard some in my mind, and I was like, oh, okay. It's kind of funny. And trees are really funny. Like, trees will be saying anything. And sometimes they give you gossip. It's like they are just waiting to say something. So I'm like, "Hey, tree," and then it's like, "So and so did last night," and I'm like, "Oh, girl, what?" And then like 3 or 4 days later, that tea will hit me, because living in a small village, especially an isolated village like the one I live in, because it's on an island, the tea will hit you in HD Dolby surround sound eventually, with all the little, even the details that you didn't think would ever make it to the public. Oh, no, they will come. They will come. You're going to hear about them. Okay, see you next time. I feel like saying something.